Kenneth Parnell kidnapped Steven Stayner in 1972 and Timmy White in 1980. After serving only 5 years in prison for these offenses, he attempted to purchase another child for $500. In 2003, law enforcement in Berkeley, California, apprehended Kenneth Parnell for attempting to buy a 4-year-old boy. This incident was not his first encounter with the legal system. The 71-year-old had a history of convictions for the abduction of 2 other boys. A prosecutor remarked during Parnell's 2004 trial, "He has been a danger to children his entire life." By that time, Parnell had already faced legal consequences for various offenses. He had been convicted of child stealing in the 1950s, as well as for the kidnappings of Steven Stayner in 1972 and Timmy White in 1980. Steven Stayner's story was recently featured in the Hulu documentary Captive Audience, a real American horror story, 2022. But who was the man who kidnapped him and abused him for 7 years? Kenneth Parnell's troubled early life. Kenneth Parnell, born on September 26, 1931, faced significant challenges from an early age. In his book, I Know My First Name is Steven, 1999, author Mike Eccles notes that Parnell's father abandoned the family during his childhood. In response to this trauma, Parnell reportedly extracted 4 of his own teeth using pliers. During his teenage years, Parnell is said to have experienced a coercive sexual encounter with a boarder in his mother's home, who compelled him to engage in oral sex. It was around 1945 that he began his criminal activities, which included vehicle theft and participating in public sexual acts. Over the following years, Parnell frequently cycled through youth detention centers and mental health facilities. In 1951, he was convicted of kidnapping and molesting a 9-year-old boy, resulting in a prison sentence of approximately 3 years. Despite his ongoing legal troubles, which included charges for parole violations and armed robbery, Parnell married his childhood sweetheart and fathered a daughter. However, the marriage ultimately ended when his wife left him for another man. In 1972, Kenneth Parnell committed the crime of kidnapping Steven Stayner. The kidnapping of Steven Stayner. On December 4, 1972, 7-year-old Steven Stayner was on his way home from school when he encountered a man named Irvin Edward Murphy. Murphy claimed to be raising funds for his church and offered Steven a ride home, to which the boy consented. However, Kenneth Parnell was waiting in the vehicle. Murphy later claimed he believed Parnell was a minister. He was ultimately convicted of kidnapping and received a 5-year prison sentence. Parnell transported Steven to a cabin in Cathy's Valley, where it is reported that he molested the boy that very night and began to sexually assault him 2 weeks later. Parnell deceived the 7-year-old by asserting that his family no longer wanted him and that he, Parnell, was adopting him. To further the deception, Parnell allegedly pretended to receive a phone call from Steven's mother in the boy's presence, claiming that a judge had granted him custody. He also changed Steven's name to Dennis Parnell and enrolled him in school. Steven Stayner seemed to lead a typical life among his peers. However, he was, in reality, a psychological prisoner. Kenneth Parnell oscillated between periods of sexual abuse and moments of kindness, leading Steven to believe that any attempt to flee would result in physical harm from Parnell. Additionally, he felt that his family, whose memory was rapidly diminishing, no longer cared for him. This situation took a turn in 1980, when Kenneth Parnell informed Steven Stayner that he was becoming too old and that he intended to abduct a younger child. The kidnapping and escape of Timmy White. Kenneth Parnell initiated his scheme on February 14, 1980, with the assistance of a teenager named Randall Sean Poorman, whom Parnell compensated with $50, marijuana, and alcohol. He abducted 5-year-old Timmy White. Parnell took Timmy to the one-room cabin, where he resided with Steven and altered the younger boy's hair color to brown. However, Steven, then 14 years old, resolved that he could not passively allow Parnell to harm another child. "I couldn't bear to see Timmy suffer," Steven later recounted to Newsweek, as reported by the Seattle Times. "It was my do-or-die moment, and I would also be returning home after doing something good." On March 1, 1980, Steven stealthily left Parnell's cabin with Timmy and hitchhiked 40 miles to a police station. He had successfully rescued Timmy, but Steven was not yet prepared to save himself. He left Timmy at the police station and attempted to walk away, only for the younger boy to chase after him. Even while conversing with the police, Steven fluctuated between defending his captor and expressing a desire to never see Kenneth Parnell again. In 2003, under California's three strikes law, Kenneth Parnell was sentenced to 25 years.